Hello, Andrew Colsky with National Sleep Network. We are here today talking sleep. And to talk sleep, we have Heidi Plowe. She's in California and she is a sleep coach, but I'm going to let her tell you more about her specific certifications and a little bit about yourself. So, Heidi, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, Andrew. Thanks so much for having me on. So I'm the founder of Sweet Dreams Coaching, and I'm a certified professional life coach through the International Coaching Federation, as well as a certified sleep science coach. And I would just say overall, I'm a sleep advocate and enthusiast. My mission is to promote rest and sleep as the most important form of self care.
Mhm. I find this whole area fascinating because, when you said sleep enthusiast, I'm picturing you standing in front of this big audience to talk sleep, and everybody in the audience is just peacefully sleeping, and that's a pro, but doesn't work so well. Um, but it is a very
Love the
interesting.
visual, though.
Yeah, but it's a really interesting area because sleep is so important to everything that we do. And even though, we're asleep when it's happening and we don't recognize it, it has an impact on everything we do during the day. It has an impact on
Mm.
health. It's very far reaching. And the more we learn, the more we realize how important it is. So, having people like yourself that are helping people to get better sleep is certainly an important area. So let me start off. I always love to start off and learn a little bit about the guests themselves. So why is Heidi interested in sleep?
Yes. I'm interested in sleep because, first of all, it's just very interesting. The science of sleep, the mystery of sleep. There's still so much that we don't know about, what happens to us while we sleep, that it's just such a growing body of knowledge and just so interesting to me. So I would definitely say it's something that just really sparks my curiosity and interest.
Hmm.
And even more so, I became a sleep science coach because I believe in just the life changing power of getting good sleep. I was inspired to pursue it because of my own personal journey. So, not too long ago, I struggled for, I would say, years getting good sleep. I would dread going to bed, I would toss and turn for hours, and I would lay there worrying about every little thing, especially about how I was going to feel when I woke up.
Hmm.
And so, when it is, a terrible process going to sleep and staying asleep and waking up, that's a significant part of your life that you're spending worrying and anxious and uncomfortable. Um, and when you're so worried about going to sleep, you can imagine also, and any listeners out there who has any sleep challenges know that that's not conducive to sleep. So, um, even when I did fall asleep, I would wake up and stare at the ceiling with my mind racing. And then when I woke up in the morning, I often just felt anxious and exhausted. I worried about my day. How am I going to feel today? And, that was a time where I really overate and just felt unhealthy overall.
Hmm.
So I went to, my family doctor. And of course, they just usually just want to prescribe sleep aids, which I'm not interested in because there's, as we understand, there's a lot of risks. Maybe good for a short term situation, but this wasn't short term. So finally, I just, put my foot down and decided to take it upon myself to figure it out. And I did. I did a ton of research. I changed a lot of mostly my habits in the evening to be more conducive to sleep. I did a lot of work on how I thought about sleep, and just really changed my relationship with it. And when I transform my sleep, I transform my life. I
Hmm.
have more energy, I'm a lot happier. And, it just brings me joy to be able to share that passion for sleep and help others on their own journey.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with us. And I know there's, a tremendous number of people out there across the world that have similar issues with their own sleep. And I'm curious, as you kind of did this self discovery and you were doing all of your own research and learning for yourself, did you find that, here's the thing, here's why I'm having trouble sleeping? Or did you find that it was more of a bigger type of an issue?
I love that question because I would say it was a more maybe not a bigger issue, but a more holistic issue,
Mhm.
where it just
Word.
took the whole picture of what was going on with many different pieces to the puzzle. And so it wasn't any one thing that I did in particular that had an impact, but chipping away and, through all of, learning and gaining knowledge and trying new things and implementing different changes slowly over time. This wasn't like a, flip the switch and everything was great, you
Mhm.
know? And I still have my challenging, periods of time for sleeping. But yeah, I would say it was more of a holistic approach. And that's the same approach that I take in working with people as well.
Okay. So can you give us the benefit of excuse me, just a couple samples of things like what types of things did you find helpful to change, or were there any particular things you were doing that you found to be really unhelpful to getting a restful sleep? Just give us some general idea.
hmm Well, a couple and I think everyone's situation looks a little bit different, based on your lifestyle and, what you have going on in your own particular, your age and your body and, what you're mentally facing in life. But for me, a big piece of it was eating a lot earlier. Now I'm on the early bird special train. I love a
Me
nice
that way
early
too.
meal. hmm I
Hmm.
don't snack at night, and that has significant impacts. Anytime I do eat later, I do have a sleep tracker now. I see a big punch in my sleep scores, in my resting heart rate at night, and so that was a very simple fix.
Mhm.
That I wasn't willing to take on, fully at first, but as I saw time go on, how much it impacted in my sleep, it's one of those almost non-negotiables for me to have a nice early meal and no snacks in the evening.
Okay. And what about in terms of, I'm thinking, lighting and ambient noise and even like the type of bedding or anything like that? Were any of those relevant to you?
Oh, yeah, sleep environment is so important. So, so important. I'm very obsessed with bright days, dark nights, in order to align your circadian rhythm. So a couple of things that are really important to me on that are getting sunlight first thing in the morning. So I have my tea, I do some journaling, and then I go out and walk my dog. And that's, a sacred part of my day. That's one of my morning rituals that um, is really important to me. Feeling good in the morning, but it's something that affects, a lot of people don't know that getting exposed to bright sunlight first thing in the morning, if possible, also has huge impacts on your ability to produce melatonin and to sleep well at night. And
Mhm.
so that's a very easy gift you can give to yourself in the morning. And um, it's best to do it without sunglasses on. If you can't take a whole walk, it's a 2-for-1 special. You get exercise and you get the sunshine, which, I'm a big fan of.
Mhm.
But if that's not possible, even going out for a few minutes, soaking up some sun on your face while you drink your favorite morning drink in the morning is fantastic. So that's bright days. And then dark nights. A couple of the key things are, whether I'm at home, which, my own room has been all retrofitted with any blinking light on a charger or on my smoke detector, anything like that. They all have a piece of black electrical tape on them because they will not sneak that light into my room at night. That is a sleep assassin, you could
Mhm.
say. Um, if I ever travel and go to a hotel or an Airbnb, I travel equipped with that so that I can make sure that I can secure a dark environment as much as possible as well.
Smart, smart.
Yeah. And then also in the evening, something that I have
Mm.
started doing is, one thing I love to do, I love to watch a show before bed. But I am very aware that blue light suppresses melatonin. We've all probably heard that, something that we're aware of, that, watching a screen right until bedtime is not exactly helpful to your sleep. But one way you can kind of skirt around that is my wife and I wear very cool amber colored glasses. And they block out the blue light. And so it takes some adjustment, but that can be really helpful.
Mhm.
If one of your wind down activities, you wanted to involve watching your favorite show, then that's a good workaround.
Right, right. Well, that's, something that I learned maybe, just a couple months ago as I started, more seriously getting into learning about sleep and everything related to it. I did not know that the computers, the mobile phones, the different types of devices with the blue light often have a night mode that you can turn on.
Yeah.
And so it turns the light more to the yellow end of the spectrum instead of the blue. And what a difference. It really makes a difference when you're looking at that screen and it's late at night. And I'm guilty of it like everybody else. When I lay down in bed to go to sleep, I'll check my phone. I'll check my calendar for the next day, maybe the news headlines, just a couple things. But when you got that bright blue light, that really
Hmm.
now it's so much more, subtle and calm because it's yellow.
Yeah, that can be helpful. I have read from different sources that that is not fully effective at reducing the blue light, but it's a step in the right direction. It at least helps for
Hmm.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And another great thing is I have amber colored lights on my bedside table. So
Oh,
if I get in bed and read at night, or when I'm just involved in my wind down process, rather than having really bright lights, especially right by my bed, it's a very calming amber color, and eliminates your blue light, you know, LED exposure before bed.
yeah. Yeah. No, good point. So, so once you sort of figured out the best formula for yourself, and I know there's a lot of different opinions out there on this, especially if you read through the internet. There's opinions every direction about everything. But for yourself, once you figured out what worked best for you, um, do you feel that you were able to get to a place of restful sleep without the need of any sort of supplements or medications or other things?
Yes, yes. I do take one supplement that I would suggest to pretty much anyone. It's safe. It's most people are deficient in it. That would be a nice magnesium supplement.
Hmm.
Um, that's the only thing that I take. Um, I'm not anti-supplements, but in terms of when I work with my clients as well, it's not something magnesium's the only one that I really suggest.
Yeah, yeah. And that was, something that I've learned just practicing in the mental health field in general is that a lot of the medications that are used for many different things when it comes to anxiety, depression, OCD, even sleep and things, medications can mask certain things, but they don't solve the problem. And the
Right.
thing that solves the problem is doing the work, which typically comes through therapy or some other way of doing the work to address the root issue, the core issue. And if you do that work, then you probably don't need any sort of medication or anything. So people who take sleep meds, maybe it knocks you out, but it doesn't give you restful sleep, not from all the science that I've been reading. So,
Yeah.
being able to work with someone to help you get that natural sleep by doing the things you're talking about is going to be the better long-term, solution to this. So,
100%. I couldn't agree more.
yeah. So, when we talk about sleep, one of the main things that people think about is insomnia. And insomnia, breaking it down into three simple areas: trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, or
Mhm.
waking up too early. So there's kind of your realm of insomnia issues. Then you've got your potential co occurring or other issues like obstructive sleep apnea, which can be a real, sleep killer in a way, as well as some other things. But those are certainly two of the main issues that people dealing with sleep problems would deal with. Um, so your work deals with what? Both of those? One of those? Tell us more.
Well, I'm, available and ready to work with anyone with, overall sleep challenges. So that's mostly people with insomnia, who have tried everything to get the quality sleep they deserve. And I can work with people with a sleep apnea, but that's assuming, of course, that they have worked with sleep medicine specialist and they have gotten their CPAP um, prescription and that is already in place. Sometimes those people could really use some support in the process of transitioning to getting used to the CPAP, and that's definitely an area that I can help with. But overall, mostly I work with people with insomnia. Yes.
Okay. So, are there any particular uh, trends or things that you have learned as you've been doing this work that might be interesting for us to know about?
Well, I would say, just in terms of like um, how things turn out for the best, I have just seen the many clients I've worked with, say, yes, I'm getting better sleep, but I'm also enjoying better relationships. One of my recent clients said, this whole sleep thing is great, but the best turnout of, us working together is that my relationship with my kid has really improved. I'm more patient and I just feel like a better parent. And so, hearing stories like that, I think is really impactful because it just shows that sleep is so much more than just laying down at night and waking up. It's something that can in fact affect your entire day, your entire life, your health and well-being, and how you navigate the world. And so that would be a big one. Um, Another trend I would say is I help people, you know, fix their relationship with trying too hard to fall asleep. So if you're someone who doesn't sleep well and has struggled with that, a lot of people become too focused on the process of falling asleep and trying and getting frustrated by the process. And so I can totally relate to that. I've been there 100%. And the truth of the matter is, you can't force yourself to fall asleep. It's a passive process and it comes more naturally when we stop trying so hard. And so I really try to work with people's just relationship with and mindset surrounding sleep, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Um, because, just helping people allow sleep to occur more organically, and the need to control sleep is really important, especially for people who have been struggling with insomnia for quite some time.
Right. Right. Yeah, and you hit on something else there that's also important and was really eye-opening to me when I was learning about it. When you were talking about sort of the CPAP usage, what I did not know, excuse me, is that now it depends on the study you read and it depends on how it's defined, but basically 50 to 75% of the people who have sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea, who are told that they would benefit from a CPAP machine don't use it. Now, there's a certain
Mm,
percentage of them who never get it in the first place. Then there's a larger percentage who get the machine, but because they never got acclimated to it, they feel uncomfortable with it, they might feel claustrophobic with it. There's all these different reasons they never kind of take to it, so they don't use it.
wow.
And you end up with just a small number. I think on average, it's around 25% of the people who actually get to the point where they're comfortable with the machine, they're using it. But the reality is, sleep medicine itself is relatively new. It only started in like the 70s. And sleep doctors are, you know, have long waiting lists. There's not enough of them.
Mm,
And so they might be able to identify or diagnose that someone has sleep apnea. And, one of the primary responses is to use a CPAP machine. But I can't, they don't all have the time to then work with the patient to get them comfortable with the
right.
machine because they've got a whole waiting list of other people waiting to be diagnosed. So it's kind of like you have sleep apnea, you need a CPAP, here's your machine, see you later. and
Yeah.
then the patient is like, "Ah." So that's where someone with your skills and training can kind of pick up the slack, right?
Absolutely, and that story it rings really true to somebody very close to me in my life just got a CPAP and they were on a waiting list for like it was almost a half year before they could even be seen by the doctor. And, then it took another few weeks to get the machine. And yeah, I mean, it's a very understaffed world and so many people and the numbers are growing are suffering from apnea. And then to just underscore your point regarding people getting the machine and then not using it because it's not comfortable is just really disturbing, I guess I would say. They have this device that can help give them literally life
Mhm.
and could maybe just use some support transitioning into that relationship. And so yeah, I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, yeah, and, another sort of little fact that I did not know before that I do know now is you have people like airline pilots or commercial truck drivers or things like that, people who are in professions that it's really important that they don't fall asleep. They have good sleep health
Yeah.
and sleep hygiene. And if they have sleep apnea and they're prescribed a CPAP, they have to use that machine and prove that they're using it because if they
Mm,
don't, they can be pulled from doing their job. And so people like that really need to be able to have the support and access to someone to help them kind of get up to speed with that, because they could literally lose their job if they're not doing that. And then, you add to that uh, life insurance. I didn't know this.
mm,
If you are supposed to be using a CPAP machine and you're not using it, you may not be able to get life insurance or you may get unfavorable rates because it has a serious impact on your physical health. So much so that the life insurance companies say, we're not gonna, we need you to show us that you're doing something to deal with this issue because it can cost us money and claims and things. So there's so many ramifications that come from this that I don't think people think about or know about. I mean, I didn't know about it, and I'm
I
learning
didn't
about it.
either. That's no, and that's not surprising but also startling.
Yeah.
you know yeah.
Wow. So so how does someone even know that you are out there? Like how do people come to you?
Well, I'm active on LinkedIn and on Instagram, so I can be found there at Sweet Dreams Coaching. Um, I also have a website, which is www.sweetdreamscoaching.com,
Mhm.
and I offer a free 45-minute sleep audit and consultation, just to talk about the challenges that you might be dealing with. And the sleep audit also, I offer some useful customized feedback and help right there on the phone. So it's a consultation to see if we would be a good fit to work together. But it's also an audit where if nothing else, you'll walk away with some, like I said, some useful information that's very catered to your particular needs. Um, and in my work, I help people with sleep challenges through one-on-one coaching, and I work with clients for usually 12 weeks to improve their sleep. And kind of my process is that I use deep level coaching and sleep science to help people work through their challenges.
Mhm.
And together, we create a customized sleep plan, which I just love doing because it takes into account, um, the very specific needs of that client. And I use my signature sleep integration technique, which addresses aspects of the mind, body, and their sleep environment to improve one's ability to sleep.
Wow, wow. So you said it's about 12 weeks of work. How
Mhm.
how often do you meet and how long is a meeting?
We typically meet once a week on a video call like like this. and we typically meet for about 45 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And there's a
So
little bit, at the beginning, there's a little bit of tracking involved, taking notes to turn into and questionnaires and things so that I can get a better understanding of, each individual's situation and lifestyle and things like that. And then over time, we co-create, I like to say, um, because, if I were to create something for someone and it just doesn't align with them, that's not going to be very helpful. So
right.
that's why I like to say we co-create this plan because I want, the clients I want their buy-in. I want their input to make sure that it's something that is, going to make change over time, but that isn't pushing it too hard, just enough. We want a gentle push, to make certain changes, but not any that create too much friction. And
Mm,
so co-creating that together is a really important and meaningful process.
right. Right. So, are there any like geographic limitations on who you can work with, or as long as they have an internet connection, they can talk with you?
100%. I can deal with, meet with clients all around the world, assuming that our time zones align.
Right.
I don't stay up super late to take a call. I have my work hours. And I
Right.
wouldn't want anyone else to be up super late or super early outside of, reasonable waking hours as well, because I think that defeats the purpose.
Mhm. Yep. No, I agree with you. Well, this is, really important information. And like I said, the more that I learn about sleep and the more that I learn about insomnia and all the different aspects related to it, it is fascinating. Maybe you and I are sort of a weird bunch or something to be so fascinated about sleep, but it can be fascinating as you learn more about it. So give us one more time your website in case somebody wants to try and contact you. What's your web address again?
It is www.sweetdreamscoaching.com. Instagram handle at Sweet Dreams Coaching, and LinkedIn, Heidi Plowe, Sweet Dreams Coaching.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, Heidi, I appreciate you taking the time to join us and share your experiences with us and educate us about the opportunities available to help people get better sleep. I'm so glad that you're actually doing the work because from everything I understand, there's not enough people to help the number of people who need help in the sleep world. So, good
Ah,
for you. And perhaps we can speak again at a later date and do an update on some new things going on in the sleep world because I know it's rapidly evolving. So um, always new things to learn.
that sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. And I agree. There's not enough of us helping. If one third of the American population suffer from sleep deprivation, then, we've got a lot of work to do.
Yes. Well, thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Mhm.